In this video, we are going to discuss about the maternal adaptations in pregnancy. So for this, first we'll start with what is the weight gain in pregnancy. So the weight gain will be from about 11 to 12.5 kg, which is along with the baby inside, and the net weight gain only after the delivery. The net weight gain will be about 6 to 6.5 kg. So if along with the baby the total weight gain will be 11 to 12.5 kg, the net weight gain only after the delivery, the person like the female after the delivery there will be overall 6 to 6.5 kg weight gain when compared with before. Okay. Next let us see. So what are these factors which are affecting this? What are the factors which are affecting this weight gain? That is the pre-pregnancy weight. So before the pregnancy only, what is the weight of the female? That is one of the factor. That is the pre-pregnancy weight. And the second one is socio-economic conditions. Like in the case if there are like in a well socio-economic condition, there will be more weight gain. Low socio-economic condition, less weight gain. And pre-pregnancy weight also, if already the female is obese, then there will be more weight gain. If somewhat thin, then low weight gain. And next comes the parity. Parity is like if that females it's first pregnancy, then there may be more weight gain when compared with the other pregnancies for the followed pregnancies. So this is parity. And next comes ethnicity. Ethnicity is like according to different countries, like if you see Americans, they have more weight gain in pregnancy when compared with Asians and like others. So it is different from different regions. So this is ethnicity. So these are the different factors which are related with weight gain. So total there will be 6 to 6.5 kg weight gain. Along with baby, if you see, there will be 11 to 12.5 kg weight gain. Okay. So now let us see an important factor, that smoking is not at all related with weight gain in a maternal period. Like in a pregnancy period, the weight gain in pregnancy is not affected by smoking. So now coming to pre-pregnancy BMI. So as we already said, according to pre-pregnancy weight, the weight of the female after delivery will be. So the pre-pregnancy weight of the female, if you see the BMI, if it is already less than 19 means it is very thin. The female is very thin here. BMI is less than 19 means the female is very thin. So if the person is already thin, then the weight gain will be just we recommend that female to gain the weight at least from 12.5 to 18 kgs. This is a recommended weight gain. So if the BMI of the female is already very high, like 30, then it is a very obese female, we say her just to increase less than 7 kgs, that is more than enough. So already obese, then only 7 kgs is enough to increase the weight. If the BMI is less than 19, that is thin person, then 12.5 to 18 kg they can gain the weight. So what are the total calories which are required in pregnancy? The total calories which you require in pregnancy is like about 80,000 calories you require in pregnancy, and in that also for one day you need at least 350 extra calories than what you eat. So now you are eating not only for you but also for the baby, so you should have 350 extra calories more in one day. Okay. So total calories required are 80,000 kilocalories are required for the baby and you. So now coming to in first trimester, you no need to take any extra food. Coming to during lactation, because you need to give milk to baby, right? So in lactation you need to add 600 kilocalories per day. So for one day normally you should add 350 kilocalories, but in first trimester not required. But during lactation, as you need to give milk to the baby, add 600 kilocalories every day. And next coming to amount of water retention. So there is a lot of water retained in pregnancy, like about 6.5 liters. So very huge amount of water is retained in pregnancy. Along with this water, there are also different nutrients, important nutrients like potassium, sodium, they are also retained. Potassium is retained 300 milliequivalents, whereas if you see sodium is retained 1000 milliequivalents. So if you see sodium is retained more when compared with potassium, and the water is like 6.5 liters. So if you compare the solutes with this water, it's very low, but they are retained, right? Now coming to water retention, right? Water retention is mainly, we said this problem is mainly due to increased estrogen. So because of more estrogen in female during pregnancy, there is more water retention, and this is leading to pitting edema. Okay, because more water retention leading to pitting edema. The other cause of pitting edema in the pregnant female is, as you can see here, the solutes which are rise, they are not very high when compared with this liquid. So because of this, there is decreased plasma osmolality. Okay, so because of decreased plasma osmolality, this in turn leads to increase the pitting edema. Okay, so even though here the sodium and potassium are retaining, but their retention is not very high when compared with this already this water retention. You can see 6.5 liter, where is 6.5 liter and where is this retention, right? So this we need to understand. Now coming to changes in metabolic system. So what changes you will see in the metabolic system during pregnancy? Actually, pregnancy is an anabolic process, right? Anabolic, it is a building process. You are building a baby, right? Okay. So there will be a total increase of BMI about 20 to 30%. You can 10 to 20%. You can see there's a total increase in BMI 10 to 20% because it's an anabolic process, right? Even oxygen consumption is increased because now you should give oxygen not only to your body tissues but also to the baby, right? So oxygen consumption is also increased, especially in the pregnancy. If you see 20% oxygen consumption is increased. In the labor, at the time of labor, you need about 40 to 60% more oxygen is required at the time of labor. Okay, so at the time of pregnancy 20%, at the time of labor 40 to 60%. So if you see the total serum calcium level, calcium is divided into ionized and non-ionized. The ionized calcium is normal, but the non-ionized calcium is dropping. So on overall, you can say the calcium serum levels are dropping. Okay. So remember, ionized calcium is normal, non-ionized calcium is dropping. So total calcium, you can say it is indirectly dropping. So now coming to fetus. So now as the calcium is low, now what the fetus does? Fetus depends on maternal calcium, like about it requires 30 grams of calcium at term, so that it will increase the calcium calcitonin requirement is also increased because the calcium is low in the serum. So now fetus is dependent on calcium, so further the calcium calcitonin system is increased, so 30 grams of it is required at the term. Now coming to parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid hormone is also increased in pregnancy, but remember it is increased in late pregnancy. In early pregnancy, parathyroid hormone is dropped. So parathyroid hormone is dropped in early pregnancy, increased in late pregnancy. Now coming to vitamin D. So vitamin D requirement for the during pregnancy is like about 10 micrograms. That is like about 400 IU per 1 day. Next coming to calcium requirement in pregnancy, it is like about 1200 milligrams per 1 day. So for 1 day you need 1200 milligrams of calcium. So now we'll discuss about carbohydrate metabolism in pregnancy. Okay. So in carbohydrate metabolism, mainly we'll discuss about insulin resistance. So what is insulin resistance? Actually, it's a problem where insulin is the glucose which is produced is resistance of insulin. That is, it's not going into the cells. So it is remaining in the blood itself, so that there is hyperglycemia. So hyperglycemia is caused due to insulin resistance in pregnant female. It can be seen especially in 24 to 28 weeks. So a pregnant female have a chance to get hyperglycemia, especially they get diabetic. Pregnant female have a chance to get diabetic between this 24 to 28 weeks. Okay, so insulin resistance is mainly caused by this hormone we already discussed, that is human placental lactogen. Of course there are other hormones, but the major one is this. The other ones are estrogen, progesterone and cortisol. Okay, remember these hormones. So they are causing this insulin resistance in a pregnant female. So now coming to facilitate, actually as we said, the diabetogenic stage is 24 to 28 weeks. Why? Because mainly GLUT transporters like GLUT3, GLUT1, they actually facilitate, by means of facilitation diffusion, the glucose is crossing across the placenta. Okay, so GLUT3, GLUT1 facilitated diffusion, and they pass it to placenta. So of course, if in the mother there is hyperglycemia, and then even in the fetal there will be hyperglycemia, right? But the pregnant female should not fast, because if there is low glucose in the blood, then even there will be low glucose in the child, right? So in pregnancy, if you see, in fasting there will be hypoglycemia, and if you see after fully eating, like what is a postprandial, right? Postprandial, there will be hyperglycemia. Okay, of course it's common, everyone knows. Now coming to insulin secretions. If you see insulin secretion, as we discuss here, insulin resistance means we are not saying like insulin is not there. Here insulin secretion is also very high, but the cells are only insulin resistant, that they are not, the glucose which is coming into the mother is not going into the cells, right? Because it should provide that glucose to the baby by means of placenta, where GLUT3 and GLUT1 are acting as facilitated diffusion. Okay, so insulin secretion is also increased during pregnancy. So in pregnancy there is a physiological glycosuria, because there is insulin resistance, so in urine there will be glucose. Okay, physiological glycosuria, it's common, but proteinuria is abnormal anywhere. Okay, proteinuria is abnormal, and lactosuria is also common, especially during lactation period, that is some amount of milk like substance is present in the urine. Okay, especially during breastfeeding time, it's normal. Feeding, okay, it's normal. So this is important points. Now coming to skin changes in pregnancy. So there will be different skin changes in pregnancy. So what are those? The first one you see is linea nigra. So what is this linea nigra? From the schiphisternum to the pubic symphysis here. For example, this is stomach. So there will be a line like this. You can see a prominent line. Why this prominent line is forming? Because increase of melanocyte secreting hormone. So why this is increased? Because of increase in estrogen in a pregnant female. So very simple. Because of increase in estrogen, melanocyte stimulating hormone is increased. So you can see a prominent line from the schiphisternal joint to the pubic symphysis. This is umbilicus, right? So this prominent line you can see, that is the linea nigra. And the next second skin problem is striae gravidum. So striae gravidum is on the stomach. On this diagram only I am showing. Like this, you can see the stretch marks. You can see the stretch marks which are pinkish in color. If they are pink in color, it represents at present, that is at term, now the baby is present, so the pink color. And if the same this stretch marks, if they are silver in color, that is called as striae albicans. Striae albicans is silver color. That is, it is a past pregnancy. It is saying about the past pregnancy. So striae gravidum, pink stretch marks seen in present at term pregnancy. Striae albicans are silver color, shiny, and they are seen in the past pregnancy. Okay, so they are also stretch marks. Now coming to spider nevi. So spider nevi or angioma. It is a dilated capillaries. You see the dilated capillaries below skin. This is also due to increased estrogen. So all these are because of increased estrogen. Okay, and now coming to other one, that is palmar erythema. These are the skin changes. Okay, palmar erythema, especially in the palm region. Here you will see red, that is called palmar erythema, and this is because of also again increased estrogen, same reason. So all the skin problems, linea nigra, because of increase in melanocyte stimulating hormone, because of increase in estrogen. Striae gravidum, pink stretch marks at present, if there is baby inside. Striae albicans, silver color. Spider nevi or angioma, palmar erythema. Okay, these are. Next coming to basal body temperature. So all these are because of estrogen. But and one more thing I forgot, that is Chloasma gravidum. Chloasma gravidum is where on the cheeks you see some spots, okay, melanocyte spots because of increase in melanocyte. Of course, same because of increase estrogen. Okay. So these are all about estrogen. So what happens if there is more progesterone? Because of more progesterone, there is increase in basal body temperature. Okay, basal body temperature is increased because of increase in more progesterone in the pregnant female. So finally, in this video, we'll conclude this with changes in breast during pregnancy. So what is going to the breast in pregnancy? What are the changes? So first thing you see is increase in size and weight. Both are increased. Size, weight, both are increased during pregnancy. Okay. Why they are increased? Because the fat in the breast is increased because of increase in insulin. As we already discussed, insulin will increase, right? So fat is increased. Next, alveoli will increase. Alveoli in the breast will increase. Why they will increase? Because increase in progesterone, estrogen and prolactin. So progesterone, estrogen, prolactin, all these three hormones will increase the alveoli in the breast. Next, increase in ducts. Why the ducts are increased in the breast? Because of estrogen. So estrogen increases the ducts in the breast, and estrogen also increases the alveoli in the breast. Insulin increases the fat in the breast. So you can also see hyperpigmentation of the breast during pregnancy. Hyperpigmentation. And next one is there is appearance of secondary areola. So secondary areola will also appear. And Montgomery tubercles. What are this? Montgomery tubercles. Montgomery tubercles appear that are modified sebaceous gland. Okay. And also colostrum has everything. So colostrum is a yellowish fluid which is not milk, but it is the first fluid which is going to come out from breast. So it is having all the important nutrients which should be given to the neonate, but except it doesn't have KFC. So what is this KFC? Here K stands for potassium, and here F stands for fat, and here C stands for carbohydrates. So these three, except these three, everything is present in colostrum. These three of course are present in milk, that is the breast milk, right? So colostrum contains all the essential nutrients except KFC. Now coming to colostrum can be seen as early as 12 weeks. So colostrum is seen as early as 12 weeks in the mother. And the breast milk lacks vitamin K. So vitamin K is absent in breast milk, and also there is less vitamin D when compared with colostrum. So in colostrum there is absence of KFC, that is potassium, fat and carbs. But in breast milk there is absence of vitamin K and low amount of vitamin D. So now coming to milk ejection. So for the milk ejection we need oxytocin hormone. Milk ejection. This process of milk ejection is also called as galactokinesis or milk let down reflex. So this is mainly because of oxytocin hormone, which causes the contraction of myoepithelial cells of alveoli. So in the alveoli the myoepithelial cells will contract. So because of this there is milk ejection process. Now coming to continuous milk production. So oxytocin does only starting process of milk ejection, but continuously the milk should eject out. So for continuous milk ejection, this process is called galactopoiesis, and prolactin is needed for it. Galactopoiesis, and here the important hormone is prolactin, and also suckling by neonate. So neonate also should suckle it, then only the continuous milk is coming out. Suckling of neonate. So these are the two hormones. Oxytocin only for ejection. So this process is also called as galactokinesis. This is galactokinesis. Continuous milk is called galactopoiesis. So these two hormones are important. And one more thing is, for the production of milk we need prolactin. For the process of starting of milk we need oxytocin. Okay. So by this we completed this. Next we will start with other part.